All right, so warm up for today. The first problem, 6 divided by 2/4. 6 becomes 6 over 1. Change to multiplication and use the reciprocal of 2/4, which is 4 over 2. Multiply straight across. 6 times 4 is 24. 1 times 2 is 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12. If you got 12 over 1, that still needs to be simplified to 12. All right. Number 2, this right here seems to be where everyone's having their trouble, is changing this to an improper fraction. So, 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 is 24. It's 24/7. Change the division to multiplication and use the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2 over 1. Multiply straight across and you get 48 over 7. And 48 divided by 7 looks like this. 6 and 6/7. Your remainder makes your next fraction. This is your whole number. You get 6 whole pieces out of that. And then you have 6/7 of another one left over. 3, Marty has 12 pounds of tomatoes. Each time he makes a batch of pizza sauce, he uses 6/8 pound of tomatoes. How many batches of sauce can he make? So you're splitting the 12 into 6/8 pieces. Keep, change, flip to the reciprocal. I cross-simplified. If you don't know how to do that, that would be 12 times 8 would be 96. 1 times 6 is 6, and 96 divided by 6, you should still get 16 batches. If you simplify and get 16 over 1, is that your answer? No, you've got to simplify it one more time. 16 divided by 1 is 16. Number 1 in the next section. Sue Ellen uses 12 yards of yarn to make 3 scarves. Find the ratio of yarn, of yards of yarn to scarves in simplest form. So, ratio, we're always going to start off with something like this. 12 yards for 3 scarves equals how many yards for 1 scarf? And 12 divided by 3 is 4. It takes 4 yards of yarn per scarf. When you're simplifying, you're trying to find how many, the unit rate, how many yards for 1 scarf. 2, a drone costs $480, but it is on sale for 33% off today. How much money will you save? How did I get the $158.40, Evan?
By multiplying the $480 by 33%.
$480 times 33%. If you save 33%, you're saving $158.40. You must have a dollar sign before it, not after it. And you got 0.4 on your calculator. You have to know to show money, you have to have one more digit. You have to go all the way out to the pennies place. So if you don't have that 0, it would be wrong. So if this is how much you're going to save, how did we figure out how much we were going to pay? What's the math we did, Maylee?
You're gonna subtract 480, subtract 158 and 40.
Okay, and then you're going to get $321.60. All right, any questions on any of those? No. Okay, let's look at last night's homework. Last night's homework, which was on 507. 507. Let's go through those. If you have any questions, you can ask. All right, number 1, we need to find the rule, and then we need to find the value of the 12th term. So, what's the rule for number 1? It was adding 9. Add 9. And so 12 plus 9 would be 21. So you need to have add 9, and then 12 plus 9 is 21. Those are the 2 things you should have for number 1. Number 2, the rule was multiply by 12. Multiply by 12. And so the 12th term, 12 times 12 is 144. Number 3, describe the relationship between the terms in the sequence 6, 18, 54, 162. What was happening? How do we get from 6 to 18 and then 18 to 54? Maylee? Yes, each term is found by multiplying by 3. So the next 3 in the sequence are 486, 1,458, and 4,374. Yes, sir? Oh, wow. Okay. That's funny. All right. Well, it's better doing too much than not enough. All right. The rule. What is the rule here? This is the one that everybody seems to be having trouble. We knew that it's like number 4, so it has to be a multiply and an add. And remember, we needed to look. To get from here to here, we were adding 8. To get from here to here, adding 8. Here to here, adding 8. So if it's adding 8, we know that's going to be multiply by 8. And so then I said 1 times 8 is 8. And then what do I have to add to get from 8 to 13? I had to add 5. So then I'm going to check this one. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 5 is 21. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 plus 5 is 29. Yes? Oh, okay. You could have. But that really only works if you see this and you have something it has to equal, remember? Because that's an equation and it's like a balance, and so there's really nothing on that side. All right. Any questions about number 4? About how we came up with the rule? To me, these are the hardest ones to find. So you have to remember the steps. All right. The rule in number 5 was adding 12, and the next 2 numbers are 52 and 64. The rule in number 6 is adding 2 and 4/10. So the next 2 numbers are 11.1 and 13.5. And the rule in number 7 is adding a half. So the next 2 numbers are 4 and a fourth, 4 and 3/4. Fill in the missing number in each sequence. 24 and a half. 29 and 6/10. All right, questions on those? All right, and then we'll look. We had 2 on the back. All right, we had what? 13 and 16. All right, 13. This is an arithmetic sequence because we are going to go from here to here. We are adding 2. From here to here, we are adding 2. From here to here, we are adding 2. That's an arithmetic sequence. And so the next number should be 12 boxes. The last one, what is the rule to find the value of the missing term in this sequence below? The rule is A, 4 times x minus 3. 4 times x minus 3. All right, any questions on your homework from last night? All right, so let's look. We're going to continue with our functions. We're going to continue studying functions. We're on page 514. 514. Go to page 514. All right, so now we're going to use everything that we've learned about functions, and we are going to keep going. So number 1, says write an equation to represent the function shown in the table. So let's figure out how we're going to get our y. Our y is going to equal something that we do to the x. How am I getting from 1 to 4, 2 to 8, 3 to 12, 4 to 16? What am I doing to x? Am I adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing something? Faye, what do you think? So we're adding by 4. 1 plus 4 is 5. 2 plus 4 is 6. 3 plus 4 is 7. So I'm not sure it's adding 4. Amelia? Multiplying by 4. So that's going to look like this. Y equals 4 times whatever the x is. And we always write it like this. We don't ever write 4 times x equals y. We always write it with our y first. Y equals 4 times x. That's our rule. And instead of writing multiply by 4, it wants you to write an equation. An equation means you have to have an equal sign. So, writing an equation, it doesn't say write the rule, it says write an equation. That it has to look like this. All right, 2, graph the function y equals x plus 3. How am I going to graph that? I'm going to have to come up with something. You're going to have to create a table with x and y values. X and y values. You're going to have to use this rule right here to help us. You're going to pick your x values based on what's down here, right? Remember, this is our x and this is our y. So, I always start with just the lowest numbers on here. I see a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, I'm going to start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, I'm just picking some x's based on what I see down here on the x's. So, my function or my rule is I'm going to add 3 to whatever the x is. So here, if my x is 0, 0 plus 3 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 3 is 6. And 4 plus 3 is 7. So, if I have a rule, I can create a function table and then I can graph it. So these are my coordinates, 0, 3, 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6, and 4, 7. So, go over to 0, up to 3. This is my first one right there. Over to 1 and up to 4 is right there. Over to 2 and up to 5. 3 and 6. 4 and 7. And then I can draw a straight line through them. All right, and then number 3. The graph below shows the number of inches of rainfall, which is the x. The x is the rainfall, equivalent to the inches of snow. Inches of snow. Make a function table for the input-output values. Remember, the input is the x and the output is the y. Write an equation from the graph that can be used to find the total inches of snow equivalent to the inches of rain. So, the first thing, let's create our ordered pairs. What's our x and what's our y for this first dot? What's our x and what's our y, Amelia? 1 and 10. So, on my x, I went to the 1, and the y is 10, 1 and 10. What's the ordered pair for the next one, Faye? 2 and 20. Next one, James? Yes, 3 and 30. And the last one, Molly? 4 and 40. Okay, so I can take what's on the graph, I can move it to a table, and now I should be able to write an equation. My y equals, how am I getting from my y to my x? I mean from my x to my y. My x to my y. Times 10. So 10 times x. This is your equation. Your y equals, what are we doing to the x? We're multiplying it by 10. Okay, so this section kind of summarizes everything we've done so far. Here, if I have a table, I should be able to write a rule. From this table, I could also do a graph. Over here, if I have a rule, I should be able to make a table and a graph. And over here, if I have a graph, I should be able to fill in the table and write the rule. So it doesn't matter where you start, you should always be able to do all three. As long as they give you one, you need to be able to work through. Does that make sense? You have a table, you created a rule. We could also graph it. Here we have a rule, we made a table and a graph. Here we have a graph, and we made a table and a rule. You should always be able to find one or the other. Okay, so your independent practice today is going to be 5:15, but I want to talk about number 6 before we go too much further. I have a hard time seeing these numbers over here in this graph, so we're going to fill out the table together. So let's look. All right, everybody looking at number 6. All right, so this first input is a 0. And my output, or my y, is a 30. That one was pretty easy to see. The next one is where it gets a little sketchy because we're going up by tens and we're kind of not right on the line. So I'm just going to tell you what the book tells me the next one is. So the next one is 1. My next x is a 1. And I think my y is 38. Let me double check or you're going to do your math wrong. So that's 38. So it's a little before 40 and the book calls it 38. All right, let's look at the 3. 3. No, wait a minute. Let's look at the 2. 2 goes up to somewhere between 40 and 50. And they call that one 46. They're saying that's 46. I couldn't tell. Was it 45? Was it 47? I can't tell. There's not enough little marks over there. That's ridiculous. All right, last one. My x is a 3, and my y is a 54. Okay? So you still need to go back and write an equation for that one. You still have to go back and write the equation for that one. That's going to be a plus and a multiply. You'll have to figure out what it is. All right, and on the back, we're doing problems 8 and 11. Problems 8 and 11. You get to skip 9 and 10 on the back. You got 23 minutes to get started. And if you have a question, come see me. All right. Go. Work. What? Is it still going?
Yeah, it's still going.